Welcome. I'm here with Sarah Seidelmann, and Sarah and I met in January. She is an artist, a painter, an author, a mother, and she even was a doctor. And Sarah, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thanks, Kelly. Super excited to be here.
Yeah. So Sarah and I met in January, and she decided to jump in and take her art to the next level. She had had a tough year the year before, and now she has made making a documentary on her art, selling paintings and showing and in a gallery. So Sarah, tell us a little background about yourself.
Yeah, well, I that year that I contacted you, remember the end of the year, I was just like, my dad had died in the previous 6 months. My mom had died 3 years before that. And so I was just kind of in this place of kind of grief and exhaustion a little bit, but coming out of it, starting to recuperate and knowing I wanted to take my art like literally to the next level. And when we talked, I just remember feeling like so excited. So I didn't start painting until probably 4 years ago. During that time, I just started to create art, and just in little small ways, like little paintings at my kitchen table that were very small. But then as time progressed, I took a few online classes and I started making bigger things. And by the time I connected with you, I was really at a place where I'd kind of reached as far as I could go with it. Like I needed some professional guidance, I needed some inspiration, I wanted to learn new things. And that's kind of where I was at.
Yeah, and the thing I really wanted to share with everybody here is that you were at this point where you felt like you were ready to do your art on a bigger scale, but you were kind of had some limiting beliefs. Do you remember that?
I so do. I remember talking to you on the phone and you said, "Do you think you're coachable?" Which was hilarious because I'm a coach and I kind of know I was like, yeah, that's a really good question. Like sometimes I can get so stuck in my own mental thinking about something that I'm not even willing to entertain possibilities. But yes, I was really stuck in my limiting thinking about what was possible for me. And I think it's because art was like a whole new world for me. Like, 30 years ago when I was in medical school, it was like, well, that felt hard and impossible. And like I wasn't quite, cut out for it maybe yet. And I think entering the art world was sort of similar. It's like everything's a foreign language. I don't know how the first thing about how you contact a gallery or how you get ready for a show or, all these things. It was just everything was new to me. And so that was probably one of the biggest things that gifts that I got from working with you was really taking some serious time to work on that mindset and really taking care of myself in that way.
Yeah, yeah. And it seems like once you started to own your badassery, you just exploded. I mean, you made a whole lot of paintings. They're just big and gorgeous. And I remember you were afraid that they looked childlike. But as soon as you started owning that your paintings are very loose and free, I feel like there's some level of sophistication came into them and they just stepped up and then you just started selling. You've even sold some for like over $1,000. I mean, you're crushing it. So do you feel like once you really owned that everything started coming together for you?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like with any creative process, like when I first started writing, I was self conscious about my writing. And I think it's the same when you start sharing your art with the world. First, it's in your house and nobody can see it. But then if you're going to put it out on the internet, it's like, it is kind of scary and you get feedback. And I did feel just because my art was not like anybody else's, that I couldn't really find anybody like me exactly who was doing what I was doing, which now I see is a real strength.
Yes.
But
Yes.
at the time, it was like, what is wrong with me that I'm not doing things in a certain way? And so I think, yeah, just owning that and being proud, and I think that's something you showed us, and in our group work together, it's just like, being proud of who you are as a person and being okay with what it is you choose to paint, the subject matter, like embracing yourself and loving all that. Um, and realizing that not every painting is going to be perfect. Like, every painting we do, we learn more, we explore more about who we are, and that takes patience. And I think, again, with creativity, it's like we expect that if we're going to sit down to write a book, I know this from working with a lot of writers, but people just imagine great writers just sit down and write books. They don't have to edit it or have a bad first draft. But painting is similar. I mean, I think I read somewhere that each of us have 1,000 bad paintings, and that's bad being a subjective word. But
Uh-huh.
I
I've heard
think what
that.
I learned with you is that, no painting is bad. It's just part of our process, and we can transform things if we, aren't pleased with the results. There, you've shown us a process of how to approach that, and that's been a huge
Mhm.
gift, also.
Yeah, the mindset shift is really big, isn't it?
It is like I started doing as you recommended, sitting with myself for 30 minutes to an hour every day, working on kind of my visualizing my own success and my own goals, and also reading out loud, like the opposite of whatever my disbelief in myself was, like, I'm not a very successful artist or something like that. And I would read to myself, like, I am a successful artist. Like, I am doing these things. I am. And, it's not a passive process to transform the mind.
No, no. And the fact that you were doing that for 30 minutes to an hour is amazing because even just a little bit every day can make a huge difference. So it's so important to clear those pathways in our brain, like you and I have talked about, to start to see what you can really be when you believe in yourself, right?
Yes.
But if you're out there, I want you to hear that if you are thinking that you have great art in you, but you're doubting yourself, that it is all possible. It is all possible. And what Sarah did was really just kind of step up to that, step up her mindset and her confidence and start to really own that. And then you got a few tools along the way too, of course. But once you did that, it seems like everything opened up for you. You made a whole series, you did a solo show, you're selling, you're in a gallery. I mean, how does it feel? Like, what does art give you to look forward to in your life?
Yeah, I think this year is the year that I really began to own, I am an artist. I am, all the things that I set out. And partially that was from working with you. I set some pretty big intentions for myself. One was, yeah, to have my first solo show. I ended up having two. I also was like, I'm going to apply for a grant so I can make a larger piece of art. And I did that larger piece of art. And then the grant, we ended up creating a documentary about my art, which is pretty crazy. And that documentary won awards. I mean, it's just been kind of wild.
Wow.
Been so neat. I just have gotten so much feedback from others that when people see my work, they're inspired to be creative themselves, or they just feel better from looking at it. They feel excited. They feel happier. They feel kind of love.
Yes.
That was one of the things I decided my mission would be as an artist, like to make love visible in the world. And I think
Oh,
that's one thing I've done this year.
wow. I
And
love
that's a
that.
great feeling.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And so I think, with you, I think a lot of people, when they visualize what they want for their art, they don't think as big as you do, Sarah. You're a big thinker. You are unafraid to dream big, and even your paintings are big. And so, I know that sometimes people can be really scared of big successes. In fact, I just got off the phone with one of my other students who's having a ton of success, and she actually said it's kind of overwhelming to have this much success. So, what would you tell people who are afraid to dream big with their art?
probably one of the things I would say would be that it's like comes from that Marianne Williamson quote from her one of her books. I'm trying to think which book it is, but anyway, she talks about that fact, like, who are you not to shine? We're born to shine like children do, but this quote goes on to say that when you shine, like, it gives other people permission.
Yes.
unconsciously without you even saying anything. It's like you're setting other people free. So sometimes that can be a strange motivator. Like, it's
Yeah.
not for you necessarily that you're doing it, although that would be great. But like, isn't it awesome that also what's going to happen if you really step up and do this work for yourself and show up? You're going to encourage so many other people. And you may never
Yes.
even know who those people are, but it's going to happen.
Well, I personally am inspired by you, Sarah, because you are not afraid to dream big and you are inspiring me. So I have no doubt that you inspire a lot of other people. So, speaking of other people, think about those people who haven't let themselves free their art yet or really see what they're capable of. Do you remember back when you were at that point with your art? Um, what was like your fear about jumping into your painting?
I think part of it is like, well, I'm one of the big ones. I didn't go to art school. There was this
Yeah.
thought like, I should pay my dues somehow. I should have gone to art school or I should do something like that. Another one was like, gosh, there's a lot of artists in my, that I know that have been working for 30 years. Like, who am I to step now in that age 50, whatever, and start doing this? It's like, that's something I should have been. And I was never an artist to begin with, in my life. I wasn't a person who ever painted. So it wasn't something I did since childhood that I was obsessed with, right?
Amazing. Yeah.
Um, so I think those are some of the things. And then, yeah, what will people think? I remember when I had my first show and I brought this big pile of work up to this gallery because we weren't sure exactly how many of the pieces were going to go in. And I remember there were two people there curating the show. And one of the people was just like, these are all so great, and pulling them out. And then one of the people was like, oh, maybe not this one, and put it back in the box. And I remember feeling this kind of like, immediately there's a shame, like she doesn't think it's good enough. She doesn't think, and then I just remember thinking and reminding myself, like, this is not, it's just, art is one of those things that you may not be for everybody, but for the
Right.
people that you are for, it's for them. And it's so delightful when you find somebody who does love your work. There is no better feeling because you loved creating something, and the person that sees your work and loves it, they are so glad you did, and it's just this
Yes.
really fantastic thing.
Yeah, yeah, and it's bigger than you. I always say that for those of you who are afraid to jump into your art like Sarah has, because you might have doubts, like Sarah did. Last year, she was really doubtful about her art, and now she's having a ton of successes. So, that's a really big thing, is just realizing it's bigger than you. You're going to lift other people up, and like Sarah said, you're going to inspire them to live their greatest creative life. So, Sarah, what would you say to people who are on the fence with doing this program and committing to their art?
I think what I've learned over the past 20 years of like just being a creative person, and writing, I wrote my seventh book this year. It's like, we don't do anything amazing alone. We just don't. Like, all the growth I've had has either occurred because I had a great mentor, because I got to collaborate with another amazing creative person, or because I had the support of a group of people. So I think it's kind of gets down to like, if you really want to have a transformation, don't go it alone. You need support, and you are going to be part of that support for other people as well. When you show up as you are, as a human being, doing the best job you can, somehow that's going to be inspiring to the other people in the group. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say that's true.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying go for it. Go for it, people. Don't wait to do your art. It's bigger
Yeah.
than you. And also I think you pointed out something about being 50 something. I mean, the majority of women I work with that are finding all this success in their art are middle age and even older. And you know what? What would you say about that? Like those people that think I'm too old, or what right do I have at this age?
Well, I was just going to take it from a different direction that, like, we invest in so many things. Like, we invest in our children's tuition, in their college, in their whatever. Like, we invest in things in the community. We invest in the organizations we believe in. But it's like, I find it's really hard. It's even hard for me, even though I've done it over and over and over again, to invest in ourselves and just plunk down some
Yeah.
bucks and go, you know what? I'm worth it too. And I have something to share, and I'm not sure how to do that. And I need help with it. And so to get whatever help that is, and so it's worth the investment. And what I always try to remind people is, like, when you invest in yourself, that's something that's going to pour out of you and ripple out to your kids, your grandkids, your partner, whoever you spend time with, because you are going to grow and expand. And so it's going to be a gift you give yourself initially, but that kind of spills out.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. Women are so often not willing to invest in themselves. I know I do every year. I'm always taking classes and hiring new coaches because I love to learn. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes me feel alive. And I think that for those of you out there who are dreaming of your art, I think the thing to know is you're probably using only a very small part of your greatness. And that's the exciting part of life. And the way that we reach our greatness is by doing something that feels uncomfortable and scary in order to grow, like taking a big class or taking a big trip. It's like Sarah said, when she first jumped into her art, it was uncomfortable because she hadn't developed those skills yet. But once you do, boy, does that build your confidence to find out you can actually do it, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And, I know I didn't love every painting I made, but out of, the 40 paintings I made in the time we were together in our first class, I remember loving a few of them. And the feeling of loving something and knowing what that is and knowing you did that, and it's like, and it resonated maybe too with other people, it's just the best, and it keeps you going, it keeps me inspired.
Oh, there's no feeling like it, right? And recently Sarah's made a series of tiger paintings that I think are one of my favorites. So I just want to emphasize that, we don't build our confidence or our art by sitting here. We build our confidence by doing it, by pushing ourselves. And that's how we step into our greatness. And Sarah, it's been incredible to see all of your wins now that you've owned your badassery. I love those badass books by Jen Sincero. So I always say that. So tell people where they can see your art and your book.
You can find me at followyourfeelgood.com, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. And yeah, I've got a new boundaries workbook that I actually made all the illustrations in. So that's fun. It's like a full color, all illustrated book, which I think makes boundaries are hard, and you're going to need boundaries if you want to have time for your art. That's one thing I've learned.
I mean, we need boundaries for everything. Oh my gosh. But yes, definitely our art for sure. And where can people find your book?
They can find it at my website or anywhere books are sold. Boundaries Make Love Possible. Sarah Seidelmann.
It's beautiful. Okay, Sarah, thank you so much for being here. You guys, if you're here and this inspired you and you're dreaming of your art like Sarah was in January and you want to have all the successes, you're welcome to jump on a call with me like Sarah did. And we'll talk about whether we're a good fit to work together in my art mentoring course. And if we are, I'll tell you what that looks like. And you can book that call at kelliedayart.com/booking. It's Kellie with an IE, dayart.com/booking. Please don't book a call with me if you're not ready for art mentoring. These are just for women who are ready to step into their greatness and work with an art mentor like Sarah. All right. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Sarah. I will see you soon.
Kellie.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.